Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, man, do we have quite a bit to talk about. Kind of like always, if you think about it, because I feel like I say that almost every episode. But we're going to get right into things, starting with last night's NXT. I'm going to be entirely honest, last night's NXT was actually more intriguing than I thought it would be. I'm not going to dive into every single match and every single segment, because I didn't watch every single match and every single segment. But I did watch highlights of the things that I found entertaining, and I will admit, some things took me by surprise, and some things actually really impressed me with the way things are going and the path things are going down right now. I'm going to start with the NXT Women's Tag Team title match, when we saw Alba Fire and Isla Dawn take on Kaden Carter and Katana Chance in tag team action for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. Now, I had said that logically speaking, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn should win, considering that Monday Night Raw now has the Women's Tag Team Champions, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, and so it would make more sense for the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions to go to SmackDown. Now, we don't know what this means for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. We don't know if this means that if they're on the main roster, if they're going to be completely eradicated from NXT, like the Cruiserweight title, or if they're going to make new NXT Women's Tag Team titles, I don't know. What I do believe is, we did see Alba Fire and Isla Dawn retain their women's titles last night. Congratulations to them. First of all, they did it in a really entertaining match, and I loved the finishing maneuver that they used to pick up the victory. I thought that the maneuver that they used, the finishing move, the way they had maneuvered that to work for both of them and really fit both of their characters, I really enjoyed that idea and that aspect of it, and so I was very pleased with that. Just want to point that out because I think pointing out the littler details and things like that, I think it's really beneficial, and that's one of the little details that I think people really need to look at and go, wow, that's really good. Now, we also saw... Sorry, I'm going to cut myself off for a minute. I want to stay on this for a little bit. So, as I was saying, though, with the main roster, this means that the NXT Women's Tag Team titles are going to SmackDown. They're going to go to Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, who are going to Friday Night SmackDown. What that means, I don't necessarily know, but I mentioned this a little bit in yesterday's episode, and I'll talk a little bit about it in tonight's episode. I personally believe that we are going to see Alba Fire and Isla Dawn introduce new women's tag team titles known as the SmackDown Tag Team titles, the SmackDown Women's Tag Team titles, and I think NXT is going to redo the NXT Women's Tag Team titles and make new ones, pretty much, and just host a tournament to crown new ones. Speaking of women's champions, though, in NXT, we also saw none other than the NXT Women's Champion, Indy Hartwell, get drafted to Monday Night Raw. Unfortunately for her, she's not even bringing the title with her. She vacated the title last night. It did look like a mix of it was because of injury, but it also could just be because, she's going to the main roster and they want to keep the women's title there. I don't know. But nonetheless, she's going to Raw. The NXT Women's title has been vacated, and there was an all-out brawl last night for the in the women's division. I can only imagine what this is going to mean. I'm going to be honest, I'm hoping it's not another ladder match, but I can only assume that they're going to have some sort of match in some sort of way to decide who's going to be next. I'm sure Roxanne Perez is going to be one of those people. I'm sure Tiffany Stratton is going to be one of those people. And I'm almost absolutely positively sure that Cora Jade is going to be one of those people, considering all three of those women have been kind of vying for the NXT Women's title up until its vacancy. So they're definitely big prospects for that at 100%. Moving on to the men's division for a little bit here real quick. We saw a really great segment between Braun Breaker and Trick Williams. And I don't say that lightly, but what I mean by great segment is this is a chance for Trick Williams to shine. Because Braun Breaker kind of said this last night. Trick Williams is the mouthpiece to Carmelo Hayes, right? He's the guy that all he does is run his mouth and all he does is talk and talk. And every match I've seen him wrestle in, he's had to either cheat to win or he's gotten completely bamboozled and lost very quickly. However, Trick Williams seems to be in a really good position here because, first of all, I could be wrong, but I think Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes, it's safe to say, they're both babyface right now. And so Trick Williams might have a chance to shine. And nonetheless, he's going to have a chance to shine against a guy like Braun Breaker. And I'm not trying to say Braun Breaker is anything like Jon Moxley or, say, Seth freaking Rollins or anything like that. But considering he is a former NXT, a former two-time NXT champion, and someone who, had the NXT title for nearly a year, it's safe to say that in terms of NXT standards, this guy is right now the current cream of the crop. And so for Trick Williams to get a chance to shine and prove himself against a guy like Braun Breaker, that's huge. And that's important. That's monumental. That's something that Trick's got to be like, this is my chance. Because Trick Williams has a choice here later down the line, right? They could either keep Trick Williams and he could stay with Mello when Mello one day eventually goes to the main roster, or Trick Williams could either become a single star and go on his own terms, or Trick Williams could just be considered obsolete and get fired. And so this is a chance for him to prove himself. This is a chance for him to get a moment to shine, which I think is going to be really beneficial for him. On top of that, it's pretty much been confirmed. Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes is happening in NXT Battlegrounds for the NXT Championship. Now, personally, I want to see Carmelo retain the title. However, it might make sense for Braun Breaker to win. I don't know exactly where NXT wants to take it. I don't know where Shawn Michaels and the rest of the people in the back want to take it. But what I do know is that either way, I think it would make for a good story moving on in the future. Now, I'm going to take a moment to talk about what was personally, for me, my favorite moment of NXT, my favorite segment, my favorite match, the whole shebang, and that was Gigi Dolin versus Jacy Jayne. First of all, I just want to say Gigi Dolin and Jacy Jayne, when this rivalry first started, I don't know about everyone else, but because I know a lot of people were hyped for it, and I know a lot of people were like, oh, this is going to be great. I don't know about everyone else, but I've been disappointed with it for a little bit. It was kind of slow. It was a little tedious. It wasn't really getting the longevity and the heat that I think it needed. Last night completely blew my mind. Last night saved all of that for me. So as I said, they did bring in Gigi Dolin's little brother, front row, front and center, and my only complaint is that I wish the brother had a little more reaction, a little more interaction. I mean, you can't blame him. He's only, he looked like he was maybe 15. I don't know. So obviously, we can't blame him. But I wish NXT would have kind of got him a little more involved in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. But it was really interesting because this was a match that I think, me personally at least, I thought, oh, Gigi Dolin's going to win this, right? First of all, her little brother is front row. They can't have her lose in front of her little brother, right? Wrong. No. So Gigi Dolin comes out into the ring. Her and Jacy Jayne, they have a chance to kind of prove themselves, and they're going back and forth like they always do. And I will admit, these two have been really proving themselves in that ring. They have really been getting moment after moment to shine and to prove that they are really incredible wrestlers. And I really do see them as like great NXT women division wrestlers right now. They could really climb up one day and become NXT women champion for sure. Absolutely. That being said, this match, it wasn't even the wrestling that took me by surprise. It was the ending. So I'm sure everyone here knows that the WWE as a whole is so PG to the point where they do not like the use of blood. And so I don't know if this was an accident. I don't know if it was purposeful. I don't know. But Jacy Jayne got cut open. Right on the forehead, right in the face. There was blood everywhere. Everywhere. All over her. Like, it was dripping all over her arms. It was everywhere. Again, I don't know if this was a purposeful cut, if it was an accident, I'm not sure. I think it was purposeful, considering the fact that, you know, at WrestleMania when Finn Balor got cut open, they almost stopped the match. You know, the refs were like stapling him up in like mid-match, and so I can only assume that this was planned, whereas that was not planned. That being said, the blood really played into what I'm talking about when I'm talking about how monumental this moment was, this match. So you have a crazy looking Jacy Jane right now, blood pouring all over her. She picks up the victory over Gigi Dolin, and then proceeds to humiliate her in front of her brother, putting her into the steel steps, putting her into the barricade, grabbing her by the face and shoving her, or not shoving her, but grabbing her by the face and, you know, looking at Gigi Dolin's little brother, trash talking Gigi Dolin's little brother, literally saying about, does this remind you of your mother? Do you know how far you have to take that shit to say that? First of all, look, this kid might be 15, he might be 16, I don't care how old you are, that shit's gotta fucking hurt to hear that. And excuse my language, but oh my god, I wasn't expecting her to go that far. I was not expecting her to say that. Especially with Gigi Dolin, the big sister of the family, right there, humiliated, completely beaten, battered, and bruised. I mean, my god, that was a great way to end that match and continue this rivalry. And Jacy Jane covered in blood, like the menacing, evil look in her eye. It's incredible. I'm going to say this right now, Jacy Jane and Gigi Dolin, everyone knows after that this rivalry is far from over. And if this match doesn't end in some sort of Extreme Rules or street fight or something of that nature, I don't know what's going to happen. Because I'm telling you right now, after what I saw last night, this is giving me flashbacks of Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox. 110%. Like, this is going to end in a brutal way, I guarantee it. Whether it's Gigi Dolin that gets the victory, or it's Jacy Jane, this rivalry isn't going to end until both of these women are broken, battered, and bruised in that ring. I guarantee it. But oh my god, that whole segment was just amazing. I was really taken away with Jacy Jane. Jacy Jane really did a great job. Gigi Dolin, I'll admit, she's been improving on the mic. And her in-ring capability is, you know, she's been getting chance after chance to shine and really prove herself, and that's been beneficial. But her in-ring capability, her microphone capability has been improving as well, because when she gets emotional, she has that same type of way that other wrestlers have, such as Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, where when she gets emotional, she can really capture the audience with her words and her tone, rather than just... because there's some people like MJF and Cody Rhodes that can really just entice you, no matter if they're monotone or whatnot. But Gigi Dolin, she has a really good job with the facial expressions and the way she says everything, and it's really working out for her, and it's helping her promo skills. And this is really to point out the fact that NXT may be a developmental program, but it's a developmental program for a reason, because these are wrestlers that need work on their promos. These are wrestlers that need help with their in-ring capabilities. And I gotta tell you right now, Gigi Dolin and Jacy Jane, they're pretty set right now. And if they're not in the card next year for the main roster, like if they're not even looked at to be brought up to the main roster by next year, I will be utterly surprised, because both of these women, I feel like, are going to be monumental to that main roster women's division coming up here in the next year or two. But, ladies and gentlemen, going to move on here real quick to AEW Dynamite, the full match card. Now, we have quite a match card coming up, because obviously May is a big month. We've got Backlash, that's coming up. We've got not just Backlash, we've got NXT Battleground coming up. We've got May 27th, none other than Night of Champions, where we'll crown a new World Heavyweight Champion. And we also have AEW's Double or Nothing, which we're gonna see most likely a major main event for the AEW World Championship, which I'll talk about right now. So tonight we have Darby Allin and Jack Perry. Now, personally, I miss the idea of Jungle Boy, but whatever. Darby Allin and Jack Perry versus Sammy Guevara and MJF. And if Darby and Jungle Boy win, they are added to the AEW World Title match at Double or Nothing, making it a fatal 4-way. Now listen, MJF doesn't lose often, but let's be real here. Everyone knows that it's going to be Darby and Jungle Boy that's going to win tonight. Everyone knows that. Because this fatal 4-way has been a match that, first of all, this has been a match that I think everyone's anticipated since the moment of the MJF's Rebar Mitzvah segment. But I think this has been an anticipated and wanted match since the moment MJF mentioned the 4 pillars. You know, since the moment MJF went on the mic one time last year at not even last year, back in 2021 at Full Gear when he fought Darby Allin, and he had said that there are 4 pillars in AEW. There's Jungle Boy, there's Sammy Guevara, there's Darby Allin, and then there's MJF. Ever since that moment, I think people have speculated a huge match, a huge fatal 4-way between all of them. And if we can get that at Double or Nothing for the AEW World Championship nonetheless, that's going to put that title on the map. Because, look, MJF, yeah, maybe he doesn't wrestle very often. MJF, yeah, maybe he doesn't do this and that very often. Maybe he's a talker and not a fighter. I don't know. But no one can take away from the fact that this dude has put people on the map. And with that belt, he's been putting that belt on the map more and more and more. He fought Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match and won. And he made it entertaining to the point where it actually made sense for him to beat Danielson. On top of that, he is now, most likely, and very well so, going to fight against Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Jungle Boy in a fatal 4-way at this upcoming pay-per-view event. Which, listen, if you don't think that Darby and Jungle Boy are getting the win tonight, then you were not a wrestling fan. You have not been watching professional wrestling, because it is more than obvious that Darby and Jungle Boy are walking out tonight with that victory. Now, we also have Soraya versus Willow Nightingale. Come on. It's obviously going to be Soraya. Listen, I'm a huge Willow Nightingale fan. Absolutely, I'm a Willow Nightingale fan. The moment that she beat Anna Jay in singles action, I believe it was Anna Jay, I was so happy. I was jumping up and down. I was so pleased with her first television win because she deserved it more than anyone. But Willow Nightingale versus Soraya, there's just no way. Okay, there is no, oh hey, Willow deserved... No, because, first of all, Soraya's heel. Second of all, she's in a much major storyline right now than that of Willow Nightingale. And to top that all off, Soraya's a legend. Okay? Maybe if Willow Nightingale was in AEW for another 2-3 years, maybe then it would make more sense, but the girl hasn't even won that often for her to get to really say, like, this is her moment, this is her time. Is it her time to kind of prove herself? Yeah, she's fighting a legend like Soraya, but she's not going to just walk out, and it just doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. Now, we also are going to hear from the Elite, and this is a lot to unpack here, because there's been a lot of controversy going on. Where's Hangman Adam Page? Where does Hangman fit into this? I'm assuming the Young Bucks are going to stick up for Hangman. Don Callis, he's a little iffy right now. We don't know what's going on with him. I for sure don't. He could be on Team Elite. He could be on Team Kenny. He could be on Team Blackpool Combat Club. I don't know where he stands. On top of that, you gotta wonder, where does Kenny stand? Is Kenny on the side of the Bucks, or does he really want nothing to do with Hangman Adam Page? And obviously you have Konosuke Takeshita, who for right now is, I guess, somewhat in the wherewithal of the Elite. Like, he's kind of on the inside of the Elite right now. And so, but that's weird, right? Because Konosuke Takeshita was also somebody that Bryan Danielson was looking at, and Konosuke Takeshita was also someone that Bryan Danielson was trying to get into the Blackpool Combat Club, and so we don't really know where his allegiances lie. So that's something to kind of look at and go, well, what's going on here, huh? You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and there's a lot of things that the Elite themselves have to answer, because everyone knows the Blackpool Combat Club, they do their talking with their fists. The Elite, they have so many things that they need to air out and put out in the open and finally, say, well, what's going on here? That's just the way things have to go so things can kind of align and make a little more sense to everyone. Now, we also have Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson. Now, listen, we've seen this match before. Juice Robinson, I believe, got the victory previously. This time, I don't know. Ricky Starks deserves the win, but I don't know how it's going to go. Personally, it could be Juice again, I don't know, because I don't want you... Listen, this is a match that it's hard to say, because this is a match that could almost be pay-per-view worthy, right? Both of these wrestlers deserve it. But I've also been hearing through the grapevine that Ricky Starks has been, this storyline with him and the Bullet Club, it's been undermining him, because he had such a build-up for a while, but now that you have two new signees, such as Juice Robinson and Jay White, all it's doing is screwing up what they have for Ricky, because you can't take away from Juice Robinson and Jay White because they're brand friggin' new. But if you take away from Ricky, you're taking away everything that you've been doing with him for the past few months to build him up to where he is now. And that's going to screw him over. And that's why this is a rivalry that it's happening a little early. It's happening a little too soon. And I see where Tony Khan's mind's at, but he needs to kind of take a step back and go, well, maybe this was a bad idea. Because Juice Robinson's one thing, but Jay White is a whole nother cream of the crop. And so that's something they have to look at and go, okay, well, maybe we should take a step back and really kind of dive into this a little differently. But nonetheless, I don't really know, to be honest. I know I've done predictions in the past. I'm kind of changing that up. I'll kind of give my thoughts and opinions, but I don't really know if I'm going to actually give, predictions on who I think is going to win. I'm more so, just going to kind of talk about who might win and who should win and that sort of thing. And so, honestly, I think it should be Ricky, but again, this could go either way. Now, here's another interesting one. Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong and Bandito versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. So this obviously means it's going to be Cool Hand Luke, Mike Angelo, I believe it's Mike Angelo or something like that, and then Big Daddy Magic Matt Bernard. Sorry, not Mike Angelo. Angelo Parker. So those two, as well as Jake Hager and Chris Jericho. Now, here's my thing with this. And my thing is, you have Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy on the same team, first of all. These are two that, listen, these two don't get along. They never have, and I don't know if they ever really will. And, Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy, it's a little weird to see them kind of working in the same match together on the same team. I don't know if this is purposeful or not. Again, I don't even know why Orange Cassidy and Bandito are even involved with the Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know if they got involved during their match. I'm not, again, I haven't caught up with AEW, so I don't know the whole story. But I think it's interesting, but I also think it should make sense. And I also think that this could potentially put Daniel Garcia into an international championship match with Orange Cassidy, which would be really cool to see. Now, this will be Roderick Strong's first AEW Dynamite match. So obviously you want to make him look pretty, you want him to kind of shine, and because that crowd's going to be out there you know what I mean? Roddy is going to be the man of the hour. But it's also going to be, you got to focus on this idea of him and Adam Cole, and Adam Cole and Chris Jericho as well, because after what we saw from, like, what Britt Baker suffered and what Adam Cole had suffered, mentally. The torment, the mental torment that Chris Jericho and the rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society had given to Adam Cole. That's something that Cole is harboring, right? That's something that he's desperately hanging on to right now, and that's something that he's going to go into this next match tonight, and he's going to lay that out on Chris. He's going to lay that out on every single one of them. And this is our first 8-man tag that we've gotten in a long time. And so this is something that, something we kind of get to look at and kind of relish, because I don't know about you, but I miss when we used to get like really big tag matches with like 3-on-3, 4-on-4. Because AEW used to do that almost weekly. And so this is pretty big right here. I don't know who necessarily might walk away with the win. I mean, I would be surprised if it's not Adam Cole, Cassidy, Roderick, and Bandito, simply because those four are really big names. Those four are names that really all deserve to be something. And plus, Roderick Strong's brand new. You don't necessarily want him losing tonight. And so it would make sense for them to get a win out of this and maybe kind of boost Roderick into something, take Adam versus Jericho while Roderick, kind of works on the lower levels of the Jericho Appreciation Society, if you will. And so I think that would be beneficial. Now we also have the Tres de Mayo Trios Battle Royal. I don't exactly know what that is. I'm assuming that means that the winners are going to fight the House of Black for the AEW World Trios Championships. I don't really know who that might be, because, to be quite honest with you, there aren't really any trios left, in my opinion, that are worthy of taking those titles off of the House of Black. The only trios team I can really think of is the Blackpool Combat Club. Maybe the Elite, if they ever came back. The Dark Order is definitely a trios team I'd love to kind of see. And I will also say I would love to see, like, maybe Andrade El Idolo and Roosh and, someone else that they could find. Make a team, create a unit out of that, and then fight as a unit and fight in the Battle Royal and win the Battle Royal. Because I would love to see Andrade El Idolo and Roosh and, someone else that they could get to fight against the House of Black, because I think Roosh and Andrade El Idolo, and I think that idea of that caliber of wrestling between both teams would mesh really well, because obviously we've seen Malachi and Andrade El Idolo fight down in NXT. We've seen them work as a team, as a unit. I think those two would go really well in one-on-one action and in mesh well in this, if they were to make a rivalry out of that. And I think Roosh and Brody King would be huge, because they're both really big guys, and it would make for really great entertainment. And I think the same goes with Buddy Matthews versus, maybe Roosh's brother, I forget his name, who wrestles down in Ring of Honor somewhat. I think that would be great. And so I'd love to see something out of that for them. I think it would be really good. Make it a Double or Nothing, I think it would make for an entertaining match and entertaining wrestling, and I think they could make a really nice, big, long rivalry out of it. And that's what Tony Khan's got to be looking at. He's got to be looking at the longevity that these guys can go for, at the longevity that he can make these matches out of. And that's, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is the long-term storytelling. Because, and I say that because that's something AEW has overlooked in the past, is the long-term storytelling. It's something that WWE is really good at, but it's something that AEW prides themselves more so on their wrestling, whereas WWE prides themselves on their long-term storytelling, because that's something that makes the fans keep coming back. Whereas with AEW, yeah, you have good matches, but if we want something that's going to be, like, dramatically entertaining in terms of, like, oh, well, this is, in terms of, like, emotion, like, heart-wrenching, like, pulling up my emotions in a way, giving me that nostalgic feeling, it's WWE. AEW is more so just to be like, oh my god, like, those kinds of moments. And so, AEW is great with the wrestling, and so they have that down. They can keep that the same. The only thing that Tony Khan has to work on just a little bit is the longevity, the long-term storytelling, because he did great with the idea of like Hangman Adam Page and the Elite. That went on for years. It's still kind of going on to this day, so that's great. But he is a little bit more he's kind of got to get better at before he can really make something out of this, you know? And so, like, before he can be considered a true rival to the WWE, he's got to get the long-term storytelling part down. And so that's my point. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's episode. As always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.